Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I certainly hope that your experience so far in terms of innovation has been rich and rewarding, and that the rest of the conference will continue to be a good investment of your time. Innovation is certainly part of ATP's overall business activity. But ATP is more than innovations. There's much more to it. And I'd like to spend just a few minutes giving you a brief overview of all the activities that ATP is actively engaged in at this point in time. And I've listed the categories that I would like to really highlight quite briefly, because I want to get us to our awardees, who I think that's really the key right now. But international activity of ATP, security, intellectual property, educational activities, public affairs, new initiatives, and infrastructure. I'll just highlight some of our key activities. When you talk about the internationalization of ATP, you have to start with our outgoing chair, Martin Reuter. He has certainly been the catalyst for much of our activity. The chair of the Founders Committee of Europe, the driving force behind our talent conference in Europe. And when you talk about the architect of our international strategy, it is Martin Reuter. So we're extremely excited about the fact that he has created, I think, a very well-defined agenda for us, and we're involved in executing it. One of the pathways leads us to China. And another one of our members at ATP, Walter Wang at ATA, he's been a long-time member for over 12 years, has agreed to become the chair of the Founders Committee for China and Asia. As the founder chair, he will basically guide our strategy for recruitment and help ATP build its network in China. We've already started that, and Alex Tong has been very critical in making sure that we are a legal entity in China. At this moment, ATP is already has an office in Hong Kong, and will be moving into China within the next couple of weeks in terms of developing its infrastructure. Another part of our internationalization is the work that Eric Shepard has done over the last couple of years. Eric, a member of the board of ATP, the first chair of the European division, an active player in planning the Europe conference, and what he recently did in terms of helping us to move to a more sophisticated automated management system with Lauren Scheib has really helped us to become much more efficient in terms of our administration. And also at the same time, we can reach out and touch each and every one of our members. And at the same time, we have much better capability for reaching and touching prospective members of ATP. You've already heard our wonderful and very effective group of managers for our European ATP. It should be noted that Europe is our fastest growing division at this moment. And while we talked about the conference that will be coming up in September, Europe ATP is busy at developing a PR strategy, not only for the conference, but also for all of Europe. So they're eager to continue to be the fastest growing and the biggest in terms of ATP. We hope so. Excuse me. Let's move on to security. Security, for many of you, is something that is extremely important. If you go back to the very beginning of ATP, it was security issues that brought about the meeting of several different publishers and formed very early in 1992 the Association of Test Publishers. Security has always been one of the core themes in terms of ATP. Kathy Donath of the Donath Group did a fabulous job of reinvigorating the test security group of ATP. Not only has she worked on overseeing and managing the development of test guidelines, test security guidelines, She has already put in place a pilot study to look at taking down sites that are rogue sites, that are unauthorized sites that are using test material. And along with Cliff, her husband, the president of the Donut Group, they have undertaken for the third year the annual survey for ATP. And by the way, if you have not responded to the survey, we would love to have your comments and responses. Thank you. Alan Thiemann. Alan Thiemann is a long-term part of ATP. And with Kathy, in fact, Alan is the legislative counsel of ATP. And with Kathy, they have been actively involved with a coalition that is advancing a bipartisan bill in the U.S. Senate called 3804. This bill is designed to combat online infringement. Now let me just give you a quick sketch of some of the players in this. You have all the major music industries. You have BMI, you have Sony, but you also have the manufacturers of automobiles like Ford, and certainly the handbag people of Gucci and shoes and Chanel. They're all involved in this coalition to fight online infringement of their intellectual property. And if the bill, which was put forth in the last Congress, continues to have the bipartisan support, we expect it to be able to effectively pull down rogue sites. And ATP has become an integral part of that, because one of the things that they didn't understand is how critical it is to protect intellectual property that's important for doctors who have to take exams, lawyers who have to pass the bar, and so forth. So it was an important introduction to the fact that there's more than handbags and shoes. Let's go to education. We have had some tremendous successes in terms of education in the last year or so. I said the last year or so, but just because of the fact that it came out in July of this year. But back in December of 2006 is when we launched a project that had John Tween and Lisa Ehrlich as the co-chairs. This project was a working group that was required or given the task of developing guidelines. And the guidelines that they developed were operational best practices for statewide large-scale assessment programs. We call it 1.0. That project could not have reached the point where it was released in July of last year if it was not for developing a joint and a collaborative relationship with the Council of Chief State School Officers. And together, that project went forward and was released in July of last year. By the way, it's been well received by the states, it's been well received by the Department of Education, and certainly the publishers have embraced it. We also have a journal. If you have not seen our journal, I urge you to go online and look at our publication, the Journal of Applied Testing Technology. This is a one-man show. Chad Buckendahl from Alpine Testing has really taken this on over the last couple of years and turned it into a very informative and scholarly journal. Last year in 2010, we did research we had a special edition on accommodations and special populations. This year, we're going to do CAT. And some of the most prominent people in research in the area of accommodation have participated in terms of the special edition. So we're quite pleased with that. Jack Jones, a member of the board and also the chief scientist for Vangent, has just recently spearheaded a response to a journal in the Journal of Applied Psychology, prestigious journal within the American Psychological Association. His response was related to the fact that the research that was published in the journal dismissed the quality and the importance of unpublished research that is being developed by test publishers. Argument is that test publishers don't create quality research because they have a special interest. We're all members of the association. We all have ethics, as Bruce told us. Let me move you on very quickly, because I do want to get past so that we can get to our awardees. Alan Thiemann, as I mentioned before, with Wayne Kamara, has been responsible for guiding the technical advisory group for the U.S. as it relates to an international standard called Assessment Service Delivery Procedures and Methods to assess people in work and organizational setting. This is a process standard that looks at the shared responsibility of the client and the service provider to deliver a high-quality service to the assessment participant. This standard has reached a stage called the FDIS, which is the final draft international standard. After a 6-month period, we expect it to be reviewed by the management board for approval to become a standard. We think that this particular standard will have the value of helping emerging economies understand the importance of high-quality service as it relates to assessment, and also at the same time re-engage our clients in already well-developed economies as to their responsibilities to provide a fair and quality product to the assessment participant. Marcy Anberg, a member of the board and certainly a longtime supporter of ATP, is responsible for organizing ATP's response to the standards for educational and psychological testing. Oh, I keep bumping this thing. Let me back up. Here we go. We just mentioned that we have the operational best practice. And you would think, well, operational best practice, it hasn't even been a year, and we're already moving forward to version 2.0. That's partly because there's so much exciting activity around online assessment that is being driven by the Department of Education in the United States. So we've already launched a new working group, and the working group includes Dirk Mattson from the Minnesota Department of Education and Lisa Ehrlich from Measure Progress. They will co-chair version 2.0. And version 2.0 will focus on special populations as it relates to accommodation, online assessment, and interoperability. Let's move to some new initiatives, and I'm almost to the point where I think I just about covered everything I want to, but new initiatives are real exciting. They're unbelievably exciting for ATP. David Beerfield, the director of the European Personnel Selection Office, with his colleague Paula Chadwick, has been engaged in a conversation for the last six months with ATP about looking at assessment in the public sector. This is an area that has tremendous activity going on and has a future that needs to be looked at in a more refined way. So we're seriously thinking about it, and we're putting together a business plan to offer a event that looks at the future that would be an invitational meeting for governments around the world. So it's a project that we hope to have underway before the end of this year. Quite ambitious, but we think we can do it. Ian Frank, CEO of the Australian Medical Council, with his colleague Susan Buick, have been engaged in discussions with ATP about looking at the medical professions in terms of the board examination groups throughout the Pacific Rim, and once again organizing that group into a body that looks at best practices and a body that networks together to improve the quality of assessments in the Pacific Rim. And we also are doing the same thing in India. So ATP has really become an international organization. I don't have the right touch with this. We have a wonderful cadre of volunteers for innovations. Every year we have spectacular performance and incredible contributions to make innovation extremely successful. But the joy of success also goes to the other side of ATP. We have built, we believe, a very committed, focused, and determined community around ATP. And from this springs from this success this joy of success springs from the consistent and superb contribution of a lot of people. But these are some of the most notable people because Lauren and I have been together for almost 20 years, Alan for almost 20 years. Peg has some wonderful ideas for taking us even farther down the international pathway and some ideas about how to improve our efficiency as an organization. The board is very excited, very informative in terms of moving our activities forward. We cannot do this without the wonderful contribution and support of our member organizations and the volunteers that they allow to participate in all these activities. Just like we've had long-term relationships with many of our volunteers, this innovation conference and every conference we have done to date has had this special touch of Michelle Issing in designing events. And I should also note that the AV company has been with us for 8 years as well. I mean, we try to stick together, and we hope that everyone in this room will become part of ATP if you're not, and we certainly would like to see you back here next year. And thank you very much. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Peg Yost, who is our chair of the Board of Directors.
Thank you, G. The GMAT has had several innovations over its long life, and many of those innovations were built upon research that was presented at these ATP conferences. Computer adaptive testing, score reporting websites, automated essay scoring, data security, data privacy, test security, customer service. These are all innovations which GMAT has had over the last few years, and some of you, as vendors, experts, consultants, contributed in a large part to making that happen. If you think about this list of innovations, most are topics that test publishers think about along the continuum of their tests. ATP is the association, and these ATP conferences are the events where the industry comes together across the continuum of test publishing. In 2003, the 4th annual ATP conference, Ron Hambleton received the much-deserved Career Achievement Award. That was my first ATP conference. It was in Amelia Island, and it was just gorgeous. Ron has been a key contributor to the GMAT test in moving from paper and pencil to computer adaptive testing, and he's been a longtime friend of GMAC, so it was really cool to see him get that award that day. But the conference offered much more for me. It was an opportunity to network with people, to learn about best practices, and also to make a lot of great friends. I look forward to the conference every year. From attending conferences to working on ATP initiatives, GMAC's involvement and my involvement have grown. My interest in serving on the board has been fueled by my growing passion for test security, but also by my deep respect for the knowledge and the expertise of the ATP members. Martin Broida has blazed some amazing trails as the past ATP chair. Some of his goals included refreshing the Innovations Conference, broadening the membership base, and enhancing the quality and image of the testing industry. And Martin, in concert with G. Harris, has been very successful in making progress against those goals and objectives. As incoming chair, I commit to do my best to further the work of G and of Martin. I look forward to helping further the growth in Asia, particularly in China and in India. I also want to find opportunities to listen to the association and connect. So I will actively engage with division heads and others, and I will listen, and I will share information, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Much has been accomplished by ATP over the years, and there are many opportunities to expand ATP's reach and influence in the years to come. I look forward to this challenge, and I invite each of you to join my ATP colleagues and me in making progress toward our mutual goals. Thank you. Speaking of Martin, I really would like to take a moment now to thank Martin for an exceptional year as the past chair of ATP. As I mentioned his achievements and G mentioned his achievements, they're enormous shoes to follow. Martin, I'd like to come up and give you an award at this time. There are two individuals who are rotating off the ATP board this year. Each has done a superb job as board member. At this time, I'd like to thank Betty Bergstrom and Eric Shepard. Please come up. Is Eric Shepard? Oh, there, okay. The ATP Career Achievement Award honors individuals who've made significant contributions in testing and measurement. Dr. Brennan has influenced a generation of measurement professionals in the area of generalizability theory. During his career, Dr. Brennan has published widely on this innovative topic and influenced practice through his conference presentations, workshops, and training sessions. Dr. Brennan has also made substantial contributions in the area of test equating and linking. He co-authored Test Equating Methods and Practices, a book which has been used by thousands of professionals and graduate students. He's served in several influential positions during his career. At ACT as Assistant Vice President of Measurement Research and the Distinguished Research Scientist. At the University of Iowa as Director of the Iowa Testing Program. And today, he is the E.F. Lindquist Chair of Measurement and Testing, as well as the Director and Founder of the Center for Advanced Studies in Measurement and Assessment. Dr. Brennan also served as the editor of the 4th edition of Educational Measurement, placing him among the top leaders in the field. In each of these roles, he's continued to engage in teaching, training, mentoring, and professional development. His conferences are the first to bring experts in higher education and K-12 assessments together under one roof. He's received many honors, two of which include the AERA Lindquist Award for Outstanding Achievement in Applied and Theoretical Research, and the NCME Award for Career Contributions to Educational Measurement. Dr. Brennan's significant contributions have made the entire testing community more responsible, innovative, and effective. He's influenced a generation of graduate students and professionals. He is a model as a scientist/practitioner. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2011 ATP Career Achievement Award winner, Dr. Robert Brennan.
Thank you, Peg. It's a distinct honor to receive the ATP Career Achievement Award. In particular, I'd like to express my thanks to Lisa Ehrlich and the other members of the ATP Awards Committee, as well as those who played a role in nominating me for this very prestigious award. There are few things that are professionally more satisfying than being honored by one's peers for career contributions. When I got into the field of measurement in the late 1960s, I certainly never anticipated that a day like this would be in my future. And truthfully, I don't think it would have been, except for the support of family, particularly my wife Cicely, friends, and especially as well the many talented persons with whom I have had the privilege of working, including among others Mike Kane, Mike Cohen, Joe Crick, Wan Chon Lee, Cindy Schmeiser, Wayne Kamara, and a number of former students and other colleagues and friends at testing organizations and universities throughout the world, many of whom are actually in this room right now. I would also like to acknowledge a debt to Lee Crombeck, whose seminal work on generalizability theory has influenced a great deal of my work throughout 4 decades. My thanks to him, to all of you, and of course, in particular today, to ATP for honoring me with this very prestigious award. Thank you very much.
The ATP Award for Professional Contributions and Service to Testing honors individuals who've made a significant impact on the testing industry. With over 25 years in the testing industry, Bob Whelan has a proven track record of commitment to forward the future of testing. Bob's visionary leadership and commitment to innovation and quality led not only to the growth and success of Pearson VUE, but also to the testing industry. He's been a leader in balancing the need to provide access to testing with test security. He brings the highest level of integrity, creativity, relevance, and partnership in his leadership of Pearson VUE and its many testing partners around the world. He is known for his candor and willingness to share both opportunities and challenges facing the industry. He's also well known for his tremendous sense of play and humor, which makes working with Bob an absolute blast. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2011 ATP Award for Professional Contributions in Service and Testing, Mr. Bob Whelan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. To be on the same stage with Dr. Brennan is truly humbling to me. And I'm not a testing guy, I'm a testing business guy. And I think it's great that ATP recognizes testing as a science and testing as a business go hand in hand. Without one, we can't have the other. So I want to dedicate and thank 3 different groups in the 20 minutes I have here today. The first group I'd like to thank is the testing business people who are in this room. We compete with vigor, enthusiasm, and honor. But at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We're here to protect the public, to make sure that people who practice professions are competent. And we all know that when we go to war with Prometric and PSI and ATA and Question Mark and CETO and ITS and professional testing, all the rest of you, we do it in a way that is humbling and in a way that is top-notch for our industry, and we're all proud of each other. So I want to thank all the people in the testing business who I feel like I'm representing standing up here today. So thank you. This is for you, the testing business people. The second group I'd like to thank are the wonderful customers and relationships I've made in my tenure with Pearson VUE. And I have 2 quick examples of that, of what great customers we have. In 2006, I had a surprise little emergency surgery procedure, And when I came out of the operating room, the person who lived 1,000 miles away from me, sitting in my room, was David Wilson, the CEO of Graduate Management Admissions Council, to see that everything was okay. When my daughter is considering going to school in Chicago, I don't Google schools in Chicago. I call Casey Marks at the National Council of State Boards of Nursing to say, tell me about schools in Chicago. That's the type of relationships that I've developed with many of you out there, and I appreciate that very much. And last but not least, and the most important, this award is dedicated to the 2,800 employees of Pearson VUE. Whether you're a test administrator in Hong Kong, a security analyst in Delhi, or a home office flunky or geek like me, this is dedicated to you. I am very proud of the 2,800 people at Pearson VUE, and if you get to work with people like Don Wagner, and Bill West, and Stephanie Dilley, coming to work every day is a pleasure and an honor, and I thank you all very much for this award. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to thank the outgoing division heads. As you know, the division heads provide the leadership in each of the divisions and provide a lot of hours and effort for ATP. So at this time, I'd like to thank Jay Breyer from Certification and Licensure, Eugene Burke, the European Division, Kathy Donath, Security Initiative, David Hersberg, the Clinical Division, Stephen Laser, the Education Division, and John Weiner, I&O. Could you please come up and receive your plaques?